access to. And also this is a particular attribute or role that is given to a woman. And then we are also going to be talking about gender sensitivity. And in its simplest form, it's also about us being aware of the way we people think about gender. So we are now trying to be very sensitive. If you're trying to design an intervention or review a policy or design a policy, we now are aware that these particular people, there's a particular way that they think about gender. Or we are now being very sensitive to understand that these people think this way, and this is the way we're supposed to interact or engage them. So also, we will be talking about gender mainstreaming, which we'll be talking about gender issues, and these are all issues that we've been talking about from the first webinar. So it comprised a range of challenges, inequalities arising from societal expectations and rules based on gender. So every community, every location have their own specific gender issues. In the UK, they have their own. Here in Nigeria, based on the context that we are. In the South, they have different gender issues. In the North, we have different gender issues. So these are all challenges and inequalities that are arising as a result of societal expectations. So gender mainstreaming. So this is the main concept we will be talking about, or I would say the main concept that we will be focusing on. And when we are talking about gender mainstreaming in its simplest form also, we are trying to look at taking a holistic approach or taking into account both men's and women's interests and concerns. So this is a holistic approach that requires understanding the challenges of male, understanding the challenges of female, understanding their interests, understanding their concerns, and working collaboratively, collectively with each and every one of them. So basically, these are the general concepts that we will be talking about from now till the end of this session. And yes, please, we can move to the next slide. So yeah, in one word or a short phrase, what do you love most about your gender that you wish the opposite gender could experience? So for example, now we would say, I am a male, I am a female, sorry, and then some of us are also male. So just drop it in the chat box in one word or a very short phrase. What do you love the most about being a woman or being a man? And you wish the opposite, I would use sex, would experience it. So please, let's take 1 minute to do that. So, and keep the responses coming in the chat box. So in one word or a short phrase, what do you love the most about your sex? And what do you wish the opposite sex could experience? It could be anything. So let's just make it interesting and interactive. So please feel free to use the chat box. We have 1 minute to do that. Hello? So let me confirm if you can hear me. So please, let's use the chat box, 1 minute to do that. In one word or short phrase, what do you love the most about being a male or a female? And what do you wish the opposite sex could experience? Okay. So keep your responses coming in the chat box. Thank you. The responses are coming in. So please, yeah, let's make it engaging. Just keep your responses. Oh, nice one. A lot of freedom indeed comes with being a man, so I'm loving that. So yeah, we're having some beautiful responses. And this is for us to take a few minutes to really understand that everybody, so depending whether you are a male or you are a female, there must be something that you really love about being a male or a female. And yeah, it's okay for you to wish for the other sex to experience what you are really experiencing. So yeah, I'm loving the responses. Being the one in charge, I love that. Yeah. So just feel free to keep the comments coming in the chat box. Let's keep it very lively. So next slide, please. Thank you for your responses. So yeah, we have two objectives for this webinar. And the first one is to increase participants' understanding on the gender integration continuum concept. So as I've mentioned earlier, this time around, we're going to dive into the more technical aspects of gender mainstreaming. And we will be talking about different concepts, with gender integration continuum is one of that. And then also another objective is for us to raise participants' awareness of methods for addressing gender inequalities through gender transformative programming. So we will also be focusing on two main things: understanding the gender integration continuum concept and understanding where our interventions or activities fall on the continuum, and then also understanding gender transformative programming and how can we use this programming to address gender inequalities. So these are the two general concept objectives of this webinar. So please, next slide. So yes, we're going to do a poll, and it's for us to take a look at this. On a scale of 1 to 5, how familiar are you with the term gender integration? So please feel free to use the poll. It's already on, yeah, I think we can see it on our screen. So the time has already begun ticking. So please, on a scale of 1 to 5, how familiar are you with the term gender integration continuum? Okay. Somewhat familiar, completely familiar, neutral, completely unfamiliar. Okay. Okay, we have 3 seconds to go. So yeah, we still have 4 people that are yet to respond, but I think we can just proceed because of timing. So yeah, we can just share the results. Okay.
Yeah, the results is on the screen. Confirm you can see it.
Yes,
on your
end.
So yeah, and we have 40. Hello? Okay. So yeah, this is the result of the poll. We have 14% of us who are completely unfamiliar. And we have 14% again who are somewhat familiar. We also have 14% who are neutral. They are not really sure whether they are familiar or not familiar. And we have 43% who are somewhat familiar. And we have 14% again who are completely familiar. So thank you for your responses. And okay, let me close the poll. Okay. So thank you for your contributions. Next slide, please. So yeah, we are now going deep into the gender integration continuum. And I would like us to take 30 seconds of our time to look at what we have on the screen. I can understand that it might really look a little bit dense, but I will try as much as possible to break it into the simplest terms so that we have a general understanding. So the first thing is for us to understand that when we are talking about continuum, we are talking about an unending process. So when you take a look at what we have on the screen, we have from the left gender inequity, and then towards the end we have exploit, accommodate, transform, and then towards the right we have gender equity. You can see that it's kind of cyclical. And whenever we're talking about continuum, we are talking about an unending process. It's a cyclical process, which means it goes round and round and round. So you learn, you explore, you learn again, you unlearn, you relearn, you explore, you review, and you repeat. So it's an unending process. That is why it's called the gender integration continuum, meaning that you are going to keep an open mind and you're going to understand that this process is an unending process. As you are learning, you are exploring, you are unlearning, you are reviewing, you're getting feedback, and then you are repeating the process. So that is why we have it the way it is. And it's for us to really understand that whenever we are talking about gender mainstreaming, we must keep an open mind, because this is a very sensitive topic, and more especially looking at the communities or the kind of context we are going to execute or implement these policies or programs or projects, we need to really put this at the back of our minds. And then this gender integration continuum is an unending process, and it is a tool. It is a tool used by implementers and designers in planning how to integrate gender into programs, policies, or projects. So this is a tool for you and me, and it's for us to really understand how this tool works. So it means that in every intervention, in all the policies that we have, in all the programs that we are currently implementing or designing, it falls, if we are taking a gender mainstreaming lens, it's going to fall under one of these approaches, which is it's either a gender discriminatory or a gender blind or gender sensitive, responsive or transformative. So when we have an understanding of this, it's for us to understand where are we going to put our interventions, our policies, or programs based on the continuum. So in its simplest form, we have the first one, which is gender discriminatory. And a gender discriminatory programming or approach to gender programming favors either gender, or I would say sex, leading to deepening gender equities. So in its simplest form, what we're trying to say is a gender discriminatory approach to gender programming does not really pay attention to whether this programming is supposed to be for males, is supposed to be for females, who is really involved, who are the perpetrators, who are the influencers. It doesn't really take into account. The thing is, we have designed an intervention and we are going to implement the intervention. So it favors either gender. So it means that maybe there might be a challenge or a problem in the community. And instead of really addressing that problem, but in one way or the other, through your intervention, you are deepening gender inequities. So I'll keep it at this. And when I am done with the transformative, you can see how we can link from discriminatory to transformative. And what I want us to put at the back of our mind is below or beneath, we have exploit, accommodate, and transform. So the exploit is supposed to be in red, which means that this is a no-go area for us. If we're really going to mainstream gender, we are not allowed or expected to do a gender discriminatory or a gender blind programming.
Selamun aleyküm.
Hello? Hello?
Hello, please go ahead.
Okay, so I don't know where that noise comes from, but yeah. So yes. So the next one is the gender blind. And the gender blind ignores gender in program designs. So it perpetuates status quo or potentially worsens inequalities. So whenever we're talking about a gender blind programming, it's not really being considerate. It ignores totally gender and differences in gender. So we're just implementing or we're just executing, yes, or implementing a programming without putting into consideration also whether, okay, so for example, is we are designing or we are implementing an intervention on maternal health. So it's not really paying attention that the direct people affected by this challenge is females. Or maybe it's taking into consideration that these people are female, but it ignores any strategy or activity that they should do in order to ensure that we are addressing their challenges. So if women are the one really facing this challenge, how do we address this? Do we sit with them to really understand why they are facing these challenges? What is causing these challenges? That is the root cause. And then think of preferring solution to these challenges. Gender blind does not take that into account. It just ignores it and maybe just says that this is what we are trying to address. And you're not really bringing these people on board to understand what the root causes are or what you need to do or how to design this intervention. Because they are the experts. It's their problem. We are only there to support them to address these challenges that they are facing. Gender blind programming does not take into account. It just understands that this is the challenge and it just goes straight to implement or design the activities or in an intervention that we feel like this is what we need to do. And then the next one is gender sensitive. So gender sensitive is now moving towards accommodative programming. So it acknowledges that, okay, women are the one facing these challenges because it's maternal health that we are talking about. And then maybe a part of the people that influence these challenges are men. You acknowledge that, but you do not sit with any of the sex to understand the root causes, to understand what exactly are the problems, how are you going to work together, how do you prefer solution. In your narrative, this is the problem, but you're not really sitting with them to understand how do you design this intervention. How do you really work with them to bring an end to this challenge that they are facing? But you are aware that the women are the ones facing this challenge and men are the ones influencing this, but there's nothing designed towards understanding how to work together and bring an end to that. Then the gender responsive. So the gender responsive has started to shift from accommodative and have an element of transformative, but it's not fully transformative. So a gender responsive programming recognizes the gender expectation and addresses the unique needs of both men and women. So the difference is that now it recognizes what the problem is, who the influencers of this problem are. And then it sits with men and women to understand how do we design an intervention that will respond to this challenge. The only thing not really involved or really missed out is gender transformative takes a holistic approach, meaning that it explicitly seeks to redress gender inequalities. And why it's different from responsive is that it sits with male, female, religious leaders, community leaders, adolescents, like every group that you can think of. A gender transformative programming brings them on board to understand clear root causes and design clear ways or strategies that implementers can use in addressing that. And it also looks at sustainability of the intervention as a key component. So gender transformative programming is beyond, just addressing the symptoms, but the key root causes, and then how the whole community can play a role in bringing an end, creating awareness of what the challenges are, and then also allowing the community people to understand that this is their problem and to come up with solutions on how do we really address this. This is our challenge. This is our problem. Taking ownership. So this is the difference. A gender transformative takes a holistic approach and it leads to gender equity. A gender discriminatory, it's a no-go area because it exploits and it brings gender inequity and gender inequality. It perpetuates it. So that is why we have these 5 approaches on the continuum, and every intervention falls under either the exploitative, the accommodative, or the transformative. So it's for us to take 1 minute of our time to begin to reflect on the type of interventions we have designed or we have executed or we are currently implementing, or the kind of policies that we have on ground. Are they discriminatory or are they transformative? Are they sensitive or are they blind? Are they responsive? So to an element for designers and implementers, if they are like really executing a gender responsive, they feel like this is the end of gender mainstreaming. But no, it's an approach to gender mainstreaming, but it's not what we really want to see. It is not like yet to gender transformative. And gender transformative is what we are looking at. And this is what we are trying to focus on. So yes, I hope it's not really a lot for us, but I hope we have an understanding of the continuum. And as we dive deep into what we'll be discussing today, we can have a better understanding of where our interventions falls, where our policy designs falls, and what we can do better. So please, can we move to the next slide? So yes, this slide is explaining further on what the exploitative, accommodative, and transformative means under the continuum. So these are programs and policies, and they can be categorized into 3 types. So it means that it's either the approaches are 5, and then these are categories of gender program. So you can say that the program is an exploitative program instead of saying that it's a gender discriminatory approach. So a gender discriminatory approach falls under an exploitative gender programming. A gender blind approach falls under an exploitative gender programming. And then a gender sensitive and gender responsive falls under accommodative gender programming, and gender transformative remains under transformative programming. So the first thing that we need to put at the back of our mind when executing or looking at gender programming is the main principle of gender integration is the do no harm. So whenever you are designing a policy, a program, or an intervention, ask yourself, are you doing harm or not? The moment you're not doing harm, so it means that you are on the right path. But the moment you begin to ask yourself using the why synthesis of why am I doing this? Why am I targeting this? Who am I targeting? Why am I targeting them? What are the problems? What are the challenges? Like so many questions. And the moment you begin to feel internally that something is not really right, or you cannot really answer some of the questions, so you know that you are not really working around the gender integration principle of do no harm, because you are doing harm. And then another thing is for us to understand that we are going to move towards a gender transformation. And the overall objective of gender integration is to shift towards transforming a behavior, transforming a community, shifting the mindset of people, trying to make them understand why what they are doing is not right and why you need to shift. So it's not really about talking about the symptoms, coming with your intervention or policies, and the moment you are not there, that's the end of it. That's not what gender integration is looking at. But it's trying to look at how do we transform behavior? How do we work collaboratively with these people to understand that this is an issue and it is their issue, and they need to think of how to proffer solution to bring in an end or addressing that issue. That's the mindset. So yeah, let me just try as much as possible because of the timing. And yes, so you also take a look and see, is it an accommodative programming or is it a transformative programming? And now it's for us to begin to think, next slide, please. What are the benefits of gender transformative programming? Why are we even looking at gender transformative? Why do we really want to move to gender transformative? And the first thing is because it promotes gender equality. So we know that when we challenge traditional gender roles and stereotypes, which is what the transformative approach is looking at, so definitely we are going to create a more equitable society that everyone has opportunities, regardless of what sex they belong to, regardless of the gender in that community. And we can see that it's positive. And then also because we are working around understanding the root causes of gender inequality. So gender transformative programming help us to reduce incidents of violence against women and girls. And it empowers marginalized groups because women and girls form part of the marginalized groups. So gender transformative programming gives them voice and agency. They are involved in decision-making processes. They are also involved in leading greater empowerment, in participation, like they are really carried along. So we empower them. And then it enhances development outcomes. We've been talking about gender equality, inclusiveness, social inclusion, taking integration of gender, and this is what it does. So we are really looking at inclusive programming that respond to the challenges that women and girls are facing. And then also it promotes social cohesion. Because we are bringing everybody on board, we are not really trying to show that we are working with this group only and like really trying to bring challenges or issues in the communities, but because everybody is involved, it brings about social cohesion. So yes, this is why the gender integration is very, very important. So please, let's move to the next slide. So this is also a poll. So we are to look at these three scenarios, and then based on the explanation I did on the gender continuum, and then the different types of gender programming. When you read, tell us, what sort of programming, what sort of approach do you feel this particular scenario falls under? Is it discriminatory, blind, sensitive, responsive, or transformative? So please feel free to read and then select what you feel this particular scenario falls under. Please feel free to participate. We are running out of time and we'll try as much as possible to round it up within time. Only 3 of the participants. Okay, 4 or 5. Okay. So we'll soon take this down because we have two other scenarios to look at. So I think we can end this and move it to the next poll because of timing. Or let's leave it at 2 minutes, then we take it down and we move to the next one. Only 9 people responded. Please feel free to do that. Just tick what you feel, select what you feel. This scenario explains.
Yeah, thanks, Khadija. We have the 3 scenarios on one poll. So people are able to scroll to the other 2 scenarios to pick their responses.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. So please feel free to do that. We have all 3 scenarios on the same poll. So just select. You can respond to 1, 2, 3. So we can just add additional 1 minute for us to do that. So I think at exactly 3 minutes, we can end the poll so that we can proceed. Five seconds to go. So yeah, I am ending the poll. So let's share the results. So yeah, so this is what we have. Gender discriminatory. Okay. Which stage of gender integration approach better aligned with this? Formal delegation of male doctors meets with the Minister for Health, also a male, to lobby him on the need to protect women from the risk of maternal health through improving their healthcare. So as we can see, it's a female-related challenge, but we do not have any representation of female. So because it says an all-male delegation of male doctors meets with the Minister for Health, also a male, to lobby him on the need to protect women from the risk of maternal health through improving the healthcare. So we can see that this falls under gender discriminatory and gender blind, because it's really an exploitative approach. Maternal health is a female woman-related challenge, but we do not have any representation of female, because females are the ones in the best position to explain these challenges. And also there's no really representation from either the male doctors, and they went straight to the minister, who is also a male. So yes. And then the second scenario says, which stage of gender? Okay, a civil society organization consults women before conducting research on the violations of women and girls' rights and publishing a report on the findings. So we can see that there's an element of, because it says a civil society organization, there's consultation of women before conducting research on the violations of women and girls' rights and publishing a report. The only challenge is men are not really considered. It says a civil society organization consults women, not women and girls, because there's a need for both parties to be heard. Women are the ones that are experiencing it, and then who are the perpetrators? So this is as gender sensitive because, okay, it recognizes that a civil society organization, there's the consultation, it goes there first, and then there's the publication. Like men are not involved. So it's a one-sided intervention because both are gender sensitive. It's an accommodative approach. And then the last one, we have a network of civil society organizations works together. It's a network, which means that it involves different categories of civil society organizations. It involves different representation of the participants of these civil society organizations to establish a female religious leadership forum, bringing together diverse groups. So it means that there's diversity and inclusion. And then not only the diversity of the groups, but also from different geographical areas committed to creating awareness on different gender issues. So this is a transformative because number one, it's a collection or network of civil society organization, which means it's a collection of different groups. And then they say it works together to establish a female religious leadership forum, bringing diverse groups, meaning that it's not really only male, female, but different groups together. And then also from different geographical areas created to and committed to creating awareness on different gender issues. So there's inclusion, there's participation, there's representation. So this is a gender transformative approach. So thank you so much for your responses. Can we move to the next slide, please? So this particular component of the webinar is trying to make us understand that issues around gender equality and gender inequality has been there for the past 30 years. And I know that there's a lot of noise around people saying that it's now that they are aware of gender equality, the NGO world is moving into gender equality, but it has been there since over 30 years. And what we need to understand is there are different strategies already that has been in place. So what we're trying to do is just contributing to it. And some of these are the SDG 5, Sustainable Development Goal 5 in 2015. We have the Millennium Development Goal 3 in 2002, the Workplace Gender Equality Act in 2012, the Beijing Platform in 1995, and the Convention for the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, also in 2002. This is just for us to have an understanding. This has already been there, and we are still yet to achieve what we want to achieve. And what we're trying to do is now to look at gender transformative approach as that approach that might really help us in achieving what has been there. And because we are moving, like the movement is still on gender equality. Please, can we move to the next slide? So we don't really have enough time for me to explain each and every component that we have here, but because we'll be sharing the slide. So I will try as much as possible to summarize this so that we will be able to round up within time that we have. So there are different strategies, as I have mentioned earlier, to achieving gender equality, which started since 1995, and it has already been almost the same movement. So we've been understanding that, okay, the Beijing Platform in 1995, this was what they were moving for. But as I have mentioned, it's a cyclical process. As they were learning, they understand that there's a particular upgrade that they can do to ensure that this particular movement or increase in women's participation, decision-making, ending women's violation of women's rights. So it's more like it's a process. As you are learning, you are incorporating what you're learning and then still pushing for the movement. And this is what takes us to the SDG 5, which is in 2015. And now we are trying to look at gender transformative programming in ensuring that we are achieving gender equality. So when we share the slides, you'll be able to dive into like this to have an understanding of what we've been trying to promote. But what I want us to understand is it's all around promoting gender equality and empowerment for women and girls, and also ensuring that we are ending all forms of discrimination against all women and girls everywhere. And what makes gender transformative programming unique is because we are not only working with women and girls, but we are also ensuring that there's inclusion of male and boys in our programming. So next slide, please. So to achieve gender equality, we have outlined two interrelated concepts, which means that if you're looking at transformative gender programming, you need transformative programming, which is the gender-based analysis. Without gender-based analysis, you cannot really achieve your gender transformative programming. Gender-based analysis is the foundation, and gender transformative programming is the action plan. So gender-based analysis provides the evidence. So this is the research arm. So it means that you have to go into the community, you have to have your pool of evaluators or enumerators to understand the data, to understand the challenges, to identify the inequalities, the power dynamics, what exactly is going on. So it means that you need to interact with the community people, you need to interact with the direct people that are affected by this problem and understand what the problem is, what we can do to bring an end or to address these problems. And then you also interact with them to understand the root causes. Why are we facing this? What do we need to do to address these challenges? And then this is what will inform the design and evaluation. So as I've mentioned earlier, this is what involves how do you even design your gender transformative programming? What should the process look like? Who should you involve? Who should your staff look like based on all the information you've gotten from your gender-based analysis? So that is why it is the foundation. And then also another thing is for us to understand that because gender transformative programming is the action plan, it's for you to understand how do you build on the findings of your gender-based analysis. If your findings give you these results, then how do you build on it to design intervention that will challenge and dismantle this unequal power? And believe you me, if you come back to this community and tell them that this is based on our finding and we have designed this intervention, they will accept it because they know that they were involved. They were the ones that give you this information. They were the ones like you have already started building this ownership of the intervention. And then it promotes long-term change. Gender transformative programming is not only addressing symptoms, but it's also looking at addressing the key root causes and then looking at sustainability. So by actively transforming power structures, you know that you are really sustaining beyond the life cycle of the intervention. But it means that because these people are aware, they are involved, and they are part of those that bring suggestions on how to profile solutions. So be rest assured that even though it's capital intensive, it's time consuming, but there's going to be sustainability, there's going to be impact. So our next slide will be talking about certain stages or steps. Next slide, please. We will be looking at to ensure we are achieving gender equality in what we do. So I don't know, I don't really want to dive deep into this because we also have another, okay, no, I can do that. So please, if you can just add additional 10 minutes for us to briefly brush through this so that we have now an understanding of how do we achieve this? How do we use gender-based analysis at different phases of our program's life cycle? So at program design, we need to look at identifying the gender issues. So your gender-based analysis will help you to understand what the issues are in that community, what the issues are in that particular area that you're trying to look at your policy. So that is what it does. And when you understand what the gender issues are, you begin to think, how do we set gender equitable objectives? Because it's one thing for you to set objectives, but then how do you ensure that it's gender equitable? So you create goals that address the needs of all sex, be it's what are the challenges or the needs of males, what are the needs of females? How do you design a goal that it's equitable, meaning that it's not really neglecting any of the sexes, but everybody is involved? And then how do you also design a gender responsive activity? So this analysis helps you to start thinking of, okay, for the workshops we are going, is it gender responsive? Are we bringing persons with disabilities? What sort of groups of women are we bringing? Who are affected? Is it only married adolescents? Is it married women? Are we bringing widows? Are we bringing divorcees? What sort of men are we bringing? So it all helps you to answer these questions, and you can see that you are beginning to look at it with a gender responsive lens. And then at implementation, it helps you to disaggregate your data, meaning that you are being inclusive. As you're talking about the challenges females are facing, you are also bringing about the challenges that males are also facing. You're not really doing a one-sided intervention, but it's all encompassing. And then also gender-sensitive staffing. So it helps you to understand that, do I need a male project officer or a female project officer? Who are my primary beneficiaries? What do I need to do? Who do I need to recruit? What should be the level of his skills or experience? Do I need an assistant that is this? Do I need an enumerator that is this? Because I'm going to interact with different groups, what do I need to do? So it helps you to answer that question. And then, okay, targeted outreach and recruitment. So it helps you to understand that who do we even target? How do we do the recruitment process? How do we ensure inclusivity and participation? What do we need to do? What language do we need to use? What sort of, is it PowerPoint? Is it pictorials, visuals? What do we need to do? So it helps you to do that and to answer all these questions. And then at evaluation stage, it helps you to understand or analyze gendered impact. So it evaluates how the program affects women, men, persons with disability, widows, every other group. So you are analyzing and you're trying to look at your impact. And then also it helps you to identify unintended consequences. What are the risks and assumptions? What possibly might go wrong? And if it goes wrong, how do we do it? What specific gender might really be involved? What do we need to know? Who do we need to talk to? What are the things that we need to put in place just in case? And then how do you refine your future initiatives? It always gives you room for lessons learned, feedback, and you interact with them, you hear from them, and it helps you to do that. So there are basically simple steps that you need to take in your gender-based analysis. So we have identified 10 steps, but I will just give us a summary of what we have here because of time constraints. So it's for us to understand that gender analysis involves the process of identifying the underlying causes of these inequities and aims at achieving positive change for women. So it helps you to understand what the root causes are. And as I've mentioned, this is through series of interaction with the community people, and not just any community people, but the right people. You will do your mapping analysis to understand who do I need to talk to, what do I need to understand, and then you come back to your drawing board and put your findings. But the main thing is for us to understand that the main goal and aim is for us to achieve a positive change. And then it examines the differences in women's and men's lives. So it involves including those which lead to social and economic inequity for women. Gender-based analysis involves every party, and it helps you to understand what a day in the life of a man looks like, what a day in the life of a woman looks like, what are the kind of tools that we need to develop, what are the sort of tools we need to administer in the community. How does this problem affects women? How does this problem affect males? How are we going to work collaboratively for them to really understand this? And then each of the above steps needs to be considered throughout the activity cycle. It means that all these 10 steps that we have there, you need to consider them. As you are doing your gender-based analysis, you need to be looking at it to see, what am I missing? What should I add? Which step should come first? What should I do first? What is next? So it's a cyclical process, and it's very important for us to understand that gender-based analysis is the foundation for us to do gender transformative programming. So I know that this session is a little bit technical, and yes, there's a lot of information. So I hope that you really enjoyed the session, and if you have any question, please feel free to drop it in the chat box, sorry. So I think, please, next slide. This is the end of, So please, if you have any questions or you need any clarification, feel free to drop it in the chat box. And also, if you are not really able to answer all the questions because of time constraints, so we can collate all the questions that we have. And when we are sending you the slides, we can have answers to some of the questions. So please, let me hand it over to Victor. Thank you so much for your time. And I'm sorry, we were, okay, it's 7 minutes after the main time that we said we will be taking. So thank you once again for your contributions, and I hope you enjoyed the session. So I'm handing over to Victor. Victor, are you close?
Yeah, thanks, Khadija. So can you hear us?
All right, thank you so much, you guys. Sorry, I'm having difficulty unmuting myself from the other device. So yes, thank you so much, Khadija, for that amazing session. Please, if you do have questions, you can drop them in the chat box and then we can have Khadija respond to them. So we're going to be taking the next 3 to 5 minutes to take questions that Khadija would respond to. Thank you very much. All right. It seems we do not have questions from the participant. However, if you do have comments or additional thoughts you would like to share with us, you can go ahead and unmute yourself at this time to share with us if there are no questions. Please, if you do have comments or questions at this time, you can raise your hand or drop it in the chat. We are closely monitoring the chat and hoping to see 1 or 2 questions. All right, then, if there are no questions or comments, I would at this.
All right.
I would at this
Sorry, can you
juncture.
hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, this is Noah from Care International. Mine is not a question, but it's just to appreciate, because there are a lot of things there that I've not really come across them to read them or to understand or maybe learn through the project. And we have been writing a lot of proposals, putting a lot of things, but we have never been putting gender integration, all those things that I learned here into considerations. I think it was a very elaborate training. She did a very good job. I just want to take my time to appreciate her on the job well done. Thank you so much. And over.
Thank you very much for your comment, and I'm sure Khadija appreciates the feedback. So can we go to the next slide? All right. So thank you once again, everyone, for participating in this webinar. At this junction, we would like to inform you and invite you to participate in the activities leading up to the 2024 Social Norms Conference. First and foremost, we have a call for abstract, which is closing by July 5th of July 2024. The theme of the conference for this year, amazingly, is From Research to Reality, Social Behavioral Solutions for Accelerated Development. And we are hoping to get abstracts on several of these sub-themes, which include policy formulation and advocacy, norm shifting, intervention design, norm shifting in project implementation, and norms measurement and impact evaluation, across the domains of health, education, and gender. Now, these abstracts should capture research or implementation experience that explore, social norms and agency in the sub-themes I've listed earlier. This submission guideline is on your screen, and if you want to have this personally, we can share with you via email. But once again, we have this information on our social media as well as the mailing list for the members of the collaborative. Also, our, again, the abstract is in preparation for the Social Norms Conference. We are hoping to have the 2024 Social Norms Conference, the second of its kind ever in Nigeria, sometimes in October. While we would be providing necessary updates in the future, at this point, we are also, putting out a call for volunteers. If you would like to be a part of the planning committee for this conference, we would love to have you. Again, we'll be communicating how to get this done via emails in the subsequent weeks or days to come. But be rest assured, we have exciting offers for people who are volunteering to be members of the committee. Rest assured, it promises to be a very, very, interesting time. For those that were in the conference last year, you would attest to the fact that it was a beautiful time of learning and networking. And this year's conference also promises to be bigger and much more impactful. So we're looking forward to your participation. You can save the date. You can begin to, spread the word among your colleagues and especially within your, circle of influence. In the chat box, we've dropped the link to those interested in volunteering. There are different ways you can volunteer, and you'll be seeing that in the form. And if you do have any questions about how you can collaborate or you want to sponsor, or someone that will be interested in sponsoring this conference, kindly reach out to us via email or via the WhatsApp group. We are more than excited to hear from you and, collaborate with you to make this conference a reality. Can we go to the next slide, please? So if you have not followed us on social media, I'm calling on you again at this time to do so. We're on X as at LC_social norms. We're on LinkedIn as the Anglophone West Africa Social Norms and Learning Collaborative. And our email is info@nigerialearningcollaborative.com. And you can also find us on Facebook as Anglophone West Africa Social Norms and Learning Collaborative. From time to time, you'll be hearing that there are several ways you can collaborate with us. If you're doing interesting work in social norms or agency, we want to hear about it. And we can also share the impact of that with our community of practice. If you have research that you're working on, we are also interested to hear about that. We might be able to collaborate with you on small part of the research. As you know, our agency is largely a learning collaborative, so we are very, very interested and invested in things relating to research, learning, and more importantly, in translating the findings from the research to policy and to implementation practice. Again, this is, what the focus of this year's team is all about. At this time, I would like to say thank you very much for being a part of this webinar, and we look forward to seeing you in other activities that the collaborative will be bringing on. Thank you very much, and do have a very, very lovely day.
Thank you and bye.
Yeah,
Bye,
bye-bye.
Khadija.
Thank you so much, Khadija,
Thank
for
you.
that.
Yeah.
Thank you.